Meanwhile, the Chief Judge of Lagos State, Justice Kazeem Alogba, on Friday inaugurated 2 local government election appeal tribunal panels ahead of the upcoming council polls. The panels were inaugurated at the Ikeja High Court Conference Room with sittings to hold in Lagos Island and Ikeja. Justice Taofiq Onyekpere Abdullahi, retired, will chair the Lagos Island panel alongside magistrates Michael Olubi, Olaitan Ajayi, and Salama Matupe and Hotapo Lazarus. Justice Sherifa Sulabo, retired, will lead the Ikeja panel, which includes magistrates Davis Rasiak, Oluwatosin Fowowe, Orisoafe, Adepeju Odunsonya, and Lydia Balogun. The panels are expected to begin sittings immediately after the conclusion of the local government elections. Now joined by Akin Fatunke. He is a chartered accountant and public affairs analyst. Also joining me is Eze Onyekpere. He's a lawyer and policy analyst. Gentlemen, many thanks for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Let me start with you, Mr. Onyekpere. I mean, we've seen historically low voter turnout in local government elections across Nigeria. At this point, one has to ask, what is really driving this apathy that we're seeing with this election in Lagos, and what can be done to rebuild trust and participation?
Well, thank you for having me. Let me start by saying that the apathy in voter turnout is not peculiar to Lagos State local council elections. Even the general elections we had in 2023, less than a third of all registered voters did turn out. And now the challenge, which is across the federation in terms of voter turnout at the local government level, is that there is an impression that the results will be announced one way or the other, with or without the voters. So the voters have this impression that, well, they are not contributing so much in terms of deciding who actually gets the seat, that the decision has been made by the authorities before the votes are cast. So many persons stay away in the plight of saying, I don't need to come here to waste my time. It is better I use the day to rest or do some other things. So that is what is leading to voter apathy, because there's no trust in the system that those who were actually and properly elected by the people will be returned by the electoral authority. So that is what is bringing the distrust and apathy.
Mr. Fatunke, do you believe the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission, LASIEC, is equipped? We saw that viral video from a televised interview where the chairman of LASIEC was unable to sort of describe the preparation, the election process, and collation of the way to result announcement and declaration of announcements. Do you think that they're independent enough to conduct a free and fair election? Have they done well in terms of voter education and in terms of getting all political parties along? Now, I asked this question specifically because earlier on during our live broadcast, we saw 2 different political parties who said that they were withdrawn, they were not on the ballot box, and that LASIEC did not do their due diligence in putting all of the parties on the ballot box.
Thank you very much. Either way, you are spent begin to do the education from now till 365 days time. People will do exactly what they don't want to do. My dear friend who spoke earlier, Mr. Onyekpere, just mentioned the fact that it's an apathy, it's a perception. That's not to say that preparation is 100%. I do not really feel that preparation will ever be 100%. Preparation to be 100% will be utopia. It's ideal. But in respect to the little that has been done, people have just made up their minds that they don't believe in it, despite encouragement to come out and do so. So that is point number 1. Point number 2, it's not just the people now, even the political parties, apart from, if you are looking and making Lagos State to be the focus right now. Do we have other political parties in Lagos? Okay, the perception is that the big party, the APC, has swallowed the whole. It again becomes a kind of a mindset, when perhaps in reality you have not prepared well enough, or you have a political party that is having internal crisis all over, and people have moved over, either swallowed, absorbed, to see themselves in some of these, and much more established parties. In Lagos State, it started, as far as I'm concerned, people have made up their mind they are not going to come out and vote. And part of it is the fallout of 2023 specifically, well, even beyond 2023. And now the fact that we find ourselves to be very different in tribes, in tongues, in prebendal politics, in money politics, in what we describe as Babasokwe, which my dear friend also says that, well, might be happening elsewhere. So because you are not prepared, because you don't believe that, you don't have the relative strength in certain areas, even within Lagos, and historically it says, from what we saw in 2023, the opposition parties were strong in certain areas. Take Abu as an example, take Festac as an example, irrespective of the shenanigans that might have happened. They had their way and they got on. So it is this voter education to realize the fact that it is your fundamental right to say you are going to stay out of election. It's also indirectly saying that having stayed out of election, I am prepared with whatever comes out of election, apart from the usual howling and wowling and pointing fingers at every other person apart from yourself.
But has LASIEC done their best in terms of voter education in their own part? Because one of their responsibility, or their sole responsibility of any electoral commission itself is voter education, a continual process of not only registering voters, but also voter education, and in this case, aligning with the center, which is INEC at the national level, but also most importantly is the grievances of other political parties. If you say that they're not the ruling party and they may not have strongholds, nonetheless, they have a fair chance to be on the ballot. We had two separate cases of political parties who came on during our live coverage and said that they were not on the ballot. One specific one, that's the SDP in Ajorami Ifelodu local government area, specifically said they saw their name on the poster that with their candidates that would be on the ballot boxes, only to come out allegedly and find that there's only two parties on that ballot paper today. Have LASIEC done their job?
I would say, and I made that point clear, think whether it's going to be a LASIEC, going to be INEC, it's going to be Angel Gabriel, just mention it, Angel Uriel, they can't. I don't have all the facts, but it is not possible, from what I think I've also seen, that they've done well enough. They've been credible. They've tried to educate. I don't think that education has been well taken. I am not aware that in Lagos it's been translated into different languages, including Pidgin language. That has not been done. Then it's just been in English. I also think that LASIEC, from the few feelers that I have seen, were not a mistake or two were made in some polling units. Adeniji Adele, for instance, is supposed to be Ward 006. They brought stuff from Ward 18. Why should that happen? It is grievous. So this has gone on, and if you asked me to judge, I would say maybe some 40%, which is still not a pass mark per se, but continuous improvement. In certain other areas, I've seen LASIEC come out clearly, maybe not so broadly, to let people know that the issue of your street lights, the issue of floods that you have, the issue of your market, the issue of your public schools and your public clinics are in the hands of local government. Also to tell them that things have changed. local government administration in Lagos, for instance, take nothing less than 1 trillion. Did you hear that? 1 trillion naira. And so, please, the local government chairman and the councillors are as important as our pension for always looking at the center. This is going to be an acid test, and if you stay back and stay behind, you are not helping yourself. I also saw that LASIEC in Lagos came out and talked about, help me vote. I mean, help me, all written together, help me vote, written together.ng. You don't know your polling booths, you don't know who some of these people are. It's still not too late. Before 3 o'clock, you can, I guess you can still do something. For those that you've mentioned, allegedly, for now, that they saw the posters of their candidates and yet were not on the polling booth, that is grievous. If it can be proven to be true, that will be grievous. And until we dig deep,
all right,
deep and come to real realization, those are some of the things that can be taken to higher authorities of governance to seek redress in this LG elections in Lagos.
As they seek redress, let me come to you, Mr. Onyekpere, and ask, right? Now, the ruling party in Lagos has has maintained their dominance in the local government level for decades, and we just talked about voter apathy. One has to ask at this point how this has sort of affected democratic vibrance and accountability in local governance. At the end of the day, local governance is very important to democracy, given that this is grassroots. Have there been any, would you say there's accountability, transparency? Is this aided in any way for Lagos State?
Yes, it is important for us to understand that across the federation, the ruling party in every state at the local government election simply is a winner takes all. They take virtually all the local government chairmen, and maybe in 1 or 2 areas, they leave a sprinkling of councillors, not enough to make a majority to be able to push through alternative opinion. Now, you recall the Supreme Court decision that gave local governments autonomy, which up till today, that judgment has not been implemented. So this idea that whoever is controlling the state will sweep all the local government seats. And what it means in essence is that since they're not in control of their finances, more or less they're still accountable to the governor. And whatever are the ills that that Supreme Court judgment has sought to cure are still in operation on a day-to-day basis. And that does not breed accountability. That does not bring transparency, because what we had expected was that local governments were going to have transparent budgeting procedures that involve popular participation, where the people had a say in what should go into their budget, as well as quarterly accountability reports of what has been done half yearly and at the end of the year. And this could even be done at public forums beyond the ones that are written down and put up on the website of the local government or any other authority. But that has not been done. So the impression people are getting is that it is a continuation of the norm. And that norm is that local government resources are still being managed by the state, and to an extent mismanaged. It's not peculiar to Lagos, like I say. It is something that is happening across the federation. And of course, you know, the constitution of LASIEC or any other state electoral commission, just like INEC at the federal level, is in the hands of the executive and the ruling party. I mean, the president or the governor is a product of the ruling party. And there have been clamors over the years to make these bodies truly independent. You don't get a body to be independent by simply adding independent in the middle of its name, whether it's INEC or LASIEC. So in essence, until we have proper electoral reforms that will ensure that all stakeholders are represented in the electoral management body, and that those stakeholders are not beholden to any particular political party or interest, and that their constituency is the public interest, we will continue to record this kind of scenario, which is predictable to say the ruling party will sweep all the seats. Like I said, not peculiar to Lagos. It happens across the federation.
Aside from the ruling party and the political parties, let's look at the candidates themselves. Mr. Onyekpere, I mean, many have raised concerns about how political parties actually select these local government candidates. And a case has to be made for the qualifications of these candidates as well. We do know that the policy or the requirement is a minimum of primary first school leaving certificate. You are a lawyer. What legal or policy interventions are needed to ensure that the candidates that we have at the local government council, at the local the grassroots level, sort of are, I hate to use world-class standard, but they are, viable in terms of, intellects, credibility, morals, character. What can we do to ensure that within the party?
Well, what we are discussing here is more or less about political party reforms and how we can reform the leadership recruitment process. If you recall that these questions you are asking are also applicable to whoever becomes a senator, a member of the House of Representatives, or even a member of the State House of Assembly. Those questions are also arising about the credentials of a presidential candidate or a governorship candidate, and of course the undue influence of money in party primaries and the role of godfathers in determining who becomes a candidate of a party or not. So these are general ills that have plagued the Nigerian electoral system, not peculiar to local governments. So if we are still having these challenges at bigger levels, you can otherwise expect that what is going to happen at the local government is more or less a selection from the godfathers of the parties. We do not have independent and credible primaries where party members determine who exactly represents them and flies the flag of the party. It is subject to manipulation. And to the extent that we have not reformed the political system and still allow the things to continue as usual, I do not see any reason why the local government election will be different. Local government election, since it's at the grassroots level, the manipulation may even be worse than what happens at the upper level, where people who have resources can even go to court to challenge these things, even up to the Supreme Court level. But at that local government level, I don't see many of them with the resources to do this kind of long drawn-out challenge. So the expectation is that it is the continuation of the norm and business as usual of poor level of, elected representatives of the parties in terms of flag bearers, not bringing out the best, the first class, the first 11 of the political party is anything that goes. So I'm not surprised at the issues that you have raised.
Right. At this point, we're looking beyond this election now and talking about reforms. And so let me ask you, Mr. Akin Fatunke, specific reforms that you would recommend, whether political, legal, or administrative, to improve local governance and democracy in general in Lagos State. I, for one, will start with public health care, and education. But hey, I'm just a journalist and I'm light-skinned. I don't know. But yourself, sir, Mr. Fatunke.
Well, journalist, and you're well honed. You are doing what you need to do. I will just jump from where my brother came from, talking about deepening democratic norms and values at party levels. We don't have it. At local government levels, we really don't have it. At states, will you say we have it? No, will you say we have it in the federal? In other words, all I'm saying is that it does not appear that we practice, and we are practicing democracy in the way we should practice democracy. So we are just managing the process. And that is the context at which I'll take your question. Should we now have a PhD to now be a local government chairman? It looks altruistic, but sometimes such talents at that level may not be enough. What about the morals? What about the character? What about the capacity to be able to see and the emotional intelligence? I've seen back in the day, somebody who went through a primary school system, and we used to have fantastic primary school system in this country, who could hold their own, but everything has moved, downwards. if you do not have the capacity to really understand, now you don't understand. You might not even understand basic Queen's English, but you understand I'm hungry. You understand I'm not feeling too fine. You understand that the nurses should be paid, teachers should be paid, and you came through that system. My first recommendation, therefore, will be to look at our electoral reform systems. We have gone far in technology, up to that local government level. I also say, I give kudos to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his attempt. Yes, his good attempt has gone up to the Supreme Court that local governments should have their autonomies. But then we have the bridge that we've not been able to cross in the governors who still pocket some of the local government chairmen and decide that they are going to be the ones that are going to handpick River State, Oyo State, the Lagos State, the Hulabalo that you have seen that, well, it has to be the governor or the governor must dictate who should be a local government chairman. I think we need to downplay this. Let's get back into electronic voting. And then finally, can we be practical? We are not talking about tomorrow. We are talking about today. We're talking about that since yesterday. One of the things that I will therefore be recommending in the interim is that you and I and every other Nigerian go out there and do your participation. Don't start akimbo. After you've done your participation and you've seen that in relative terms your votes have been found to count, go look for your local government chairman. And what I'm going to hear there is that you can't see them. I made an attempt. After about 4, 5, 6, at least at the last count 10 times, I stayed there, I stayed vigil. It's not easy. I want to see you. So why do you want to see me? I'm not coming to see you to look for contracts. I stay in Isolo. I'm talking about Oshodi in Isolo. And then I said, what I wanted to just say is that I want to see some form of accountability. You don't know how to do it. I can give you a template, a simple template here and there, and they took it in. They are yet to begin to work on that. So if I can do that, and you can do that as you are doing in your studios, and every other person, now hold them accountable, I think we may begin to claw back little by little, some of the things that we expect. But overall, I do not think our democracy is working the way they are.
All right.
Manage process for now, let's do with what we have, and then all of us, citizen participation, very, very important and very key.
Right. I mean, I want to say thank you, gentlemen. At this point, we will definitely also ask, as we're talking about accountability and transparency, the anti-graft agencies also should start, going after the local government councillors and the chairman when it comes to, just fact-checking, or should I say checking, in terms of craft crimes, so to speak. But also, we also have to address the trust deficits that happens between the electorate and, of course, the umpires themselves, and how best we can get people out there on the street voting, because the local government elections do count when it comes to distributing the dividends of democracy. Gentlemen, once again, thank you. Our guest was Mr. Akin Fatunke, a chartered accountant and public affairs analyst. Also with us was Mr. Eze Onyekpere. He is a lawyer and also public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and giving us that very insightful discussion.